One of the things that I get a lot of questions about is about spirituality. I get a lot of questions about spirituality. I get a lot of questions from people who are learning about it or who are trying to get into it. You know, some people want to get into crystals, or they want to get into being a Wiccan, or they want to get into different things like that. But because they don't, most of us don't know a lot about it. It's not really part of many of our traditions. Some of us grow up on this kind of stuff, which is kind of cool, but some of us don't. Some of us grow up with no knowledge at all, like me. So they come to me and they ask me all these questions about, getting into candle magic, for example, getting into doing readings or things like that, getting into, learning more about, earth magic or those kind of things, pendulum usage, crystal balls, all kinds of stuff. And I tell you, the more and more, the older I get, the more and more embraced and accepted these practices have become, which is shocking to me because when I first started learning these kinds of things, it was very taboo. It was very taboo. When I used to read my magic books, I told you guys I used to cover them in cardboard, or in not cardboard, in construction paper, and in brown paper bags. And I would put a different title on the outside of it because I really didn't want people to know what I was reading. Now I see people all over the place reading books about crystals and chakras and all kinds of stuff. But when I was doing it, when I first started, it was like, it was taboo. So it is wonderful to me that more people are embracing things like learning about herbs and oils and things, holistic methods, and all kinds of different aspects of spirituality. That's a wonderful thing. Anybody who's interested very well should do their research and learn more. I think that's wonderful. The problem that I'm having with it is that a lot of people aren't doing it right. And I'm really concerned because, see, what happens is when you get involved in anything, and I mean anything, if it's spiritual, if it's education, if it's, a card game, if you get involved in anything and don't know what you're doing, you open yourself up to an unpleasant experience, or an unknowledgeable experience, or just an experience that doesn't take you anywhere, you know? So I'm going to do the introduction. And then I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about how people can get around this. How can you get around these pitfalls, okay? So first, I'm Queen Osset Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, pass it on to somebody else who might like it too, and drop us a positive comment in the comment section. And please stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to drop you guys some of my favorite positive comments that are kind of humorous from previous videos. Likewise, if you would like to get a reading done, please email me. If you would like to be one of my patrons on Patreon, please check out the link underneath this video, underneath my email address. And all the information you would need to know, like my social media, my PayPal, my Amazon wish list, also my Ask an Aquarius merchandise is also underneath this video. So what can they do about this? Okay, so somebody who has no knowledge or little knowledge, what are the mistakes that I'm seeing them making? The first mistake is they're not doing any research. This is a really big problem. If you want to get into anything, I mean anything, if you even want to learn how to put cars together, you need to read and learn about what people knew before. You need to do some research. Let's say, for example, you want to get into salsa dancing, for example. The first thing you should do, and everybody doesn't do this either, but the first thing you should do is know a little bit about the history and the culture of salsa dancing. My thing is that before you do anything, you should research it and know a little bit about it so that you can, talk about it or at least have a good understanding of it. And I see so many people don't take the time to do any reading, any research at all. They might see, like, for instance, they'll see like a picture on Instagram, or they might see something on Pinterest, or they might see, something like that, a YouTube video even. And then they'll go out there and they'll just start doing whatever it is they're doing. But they don't have any knowledge about what they're doing. So the chances of it going wrong are extremely high. For example, let's say you want to get into candle magic. Candle magic is something that a lot of people do, is very popular. And let's say you wanted to get into candle magic, but you don't know anything about candle magic. The smartest thing to do is go and get some books. Read about candle magic. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel here, because once you start to research, you will see who are the experts in the field, for example, who does really good work. There's all kinds of people. For example, Scott Cunningham. Scott Cunningham has amazing work on incense, herbs, oils, the Wiccan spiritual system, a whole bunch of stuff. He's really amazing. He passed over, but his work is still out there, and it's amazing. Judica Isles has volumes upon volumes of books on spirits and spirituality and different. She had a book with like 5,000 spells in it. So if you want to learn these kind of things, there's such rich traditions and material and all kinds of stuff out there that if you just take your time and learn a little bit, you'll probably have a really good experience. But if you just jump into something without knowing what it is, you don't know what kind of results you might possibly get. When I first before I became a priestess, I didn't just initiate to be a priestess. I had the books for priestess training. I had them books for a long time before I initiated. It was years, because I wanted to understand what the hell were they talking about? What was I agreeing to? What commitment am I making here? And I wanted to understand what that is. And I'm not seeing that same process for a lot of people. And then what happens is their candle magic or whatever they're trying to do doesn't work. Or something goes wrong and they don't know what to do. Stuff like that. And you could have bypassed all of those issues if you had just done some research before you started to practice. So that's the biggest one I see. Number two, they don't learn anything about protection. If you're going to get into spirit and spirituality, there's something called spiritual warfare. And spiritual warfare is the energy between positive and negative energy, basically. If you get into doing things on a spiritual level, you will very quickly find that there is all kinds of positive and negative energy. If you're going to be doing things of the spiritual nature, you're more than likely going to need some protection magic. You're going to need to cleanse. You're going to need to do these kind of things. And if you don't know that, and you're just doing candle magic, doing divination, doing different things without knowing that, you're opening up these energies and you're not protecting yourself. You're not cleansing your space. You don't even know what you're not doing. Okay? That's a problem. Did you know that when you use for instance, a crystal ball, or when you use tarot cards, you are opening up yourself, your crown. You're opening up yourself to spirits and energies that are all around you. And if there are things around you that aren't good, you want certain energies, certain, talismans or crystals or whatever kind of protection you want to use, prayers, whatever you're going to use, you want protections up before you start doing these things. And I'm seeing a lot of people doing stuff and they have up no protection. And then they call me 6 months later, because remember, I'm getting these cases. So 6 months later, I get a phone call that there's a spirit that they can't get rid of. And they don't know why. They don't know where it came from. They don't know what to do. They don't know what happened. And they scared. Okay? Stuff like that happens all the time. You would not believe how many house cleansings and blessings I've had to do personally because the person was dibbing and dabbing in things they didn't know what they were doing. Had no protections up, did no research, not smart at all. It's best to learn what you're dealing with. And the last one, because there are many things that can happen, but this is the last one I see frequently. The last one is people listening to others who don't know what they're doing. So they want to learn more about, candle magic or something like that, or they want to learn more about crystals. And they ask their cousin Boo Boo, who don't even own no crystals, but knew somebody once upon a time that did and has so much to say about them. They go to people who don't know what they're talking about instead of going to experts. Okay? When I first started, I was reading books and listening to lectures from experts. The more I got into it, the more I learned. But along the way, there was a lot of charlatans. There was a lot of people who tried to take me for my money. There was a lot of people who were teaching me things or wanted to teach me things that were not good. I remember this one guy, he wanted me to be his priestess so bad. He was an Aquarius too, and he wanted me to be his priestess. He wanted me to train under him and then be one of his minions, basically. And the longer I was around him, the more I realized just from conversation that this wasn't somebody I was letting teach me anything. His energy was nasty. He wasn't even kind to people. Like, I ain't no way in hell you using me, because that's basically what he was going to do. And what he was doing with the other priestesses was using them for their energy and using them to do things for him and using them for sex and all kinds of other stuff. And I was just like, you have to be really careful of who you get your information from. Okay? You have to be careful. Just because somebody's telling you something that they read or they heard or this or that does not mean that that person knows what they're talking about. I remember somebody had told one of my clients, my client had a dream. She had a dream about Ganesha. Okay? In the dream, Ganesha is a lord, an energy from ancient mythology, the Hindu, the Indian tradition, right? Real ancient energy, ancient traditions. And they have a whole mythology of, I don't know if they call them gods and goddesses, but they have a whole mythology of these magical divine beings. So this young lady had a dream about Ganesha. And Ganesha was telling her whatever he said to her, he wanted her to do. So then she was telling a friend of hers who knew nothing about spirituality about what Ganesha was saying to her. And her friend told her that it was a demonic dream. That was a demon. And she shouldn't do anything that he told her to do and blah, 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 blah. So my client called me skirt that some demon had come into her dream and was going to send her to hell. And I was like, what? Tell me about this dream. So I listened to the dream. I pulled some cards. And it wasn't anything like that. Ganesha was saying that she had obstacles in her way and was giving her some ideas through symbolism of how to get through the obstacles. So had she had listened to her friend, she would have been scared and wouldn't have gotten the information that was coming to her in this dream. So you got to be really careful who you listen to. I'm going to tell you who I listen to, because I have a mentor and I have a lot of elders and aunties and godmothers and godfathers. I'm going to tell you who I listen to. I listen to people who I can look at their lives and see the teachings in their life. When I talk to my mentor, I can see her magic working in her life. You see? I see her doing good deeds. I see her living a very abundant life. I see her being positive. I see her helping other people. I don't see her in any kind of drama or negativity. I see that working for her. And then when it's somebody I don't know, like maybe, an author or somebody like that, I look and see what people say about their work. I look and see who's read their books. I look and see the comments on Amazon. I look and see which are recommended by people that I do respect. And that's the work that I use. So be careful of who you listen to in life in general, but especially when it comes to spirituality. Talk to people who know what they're talking about, because everybody and their grandmother has something to say about spirituality. I'm here to tell you, everybody has heard a rumor. Everybody knows somebody that did a spell once upon a time. you know, everybody that you talk to will have an opinion. Some people will have ulterior motives. I was talking to one young lady and I was telling her different things that she can do. And then on a separate occasion, she was talking to somebody else. And this person told her that she could not do the things I told her to do, which was basically like get some sage and, smudge her home and things like that and pray over her home. That's what I told her to do. The woman told her she could not do just that unless she was initiated. Okay? And of course, this woman could initiate her for $1,500. Of course. You see what I'm saying? You have to be really careful because there's a lot of people out there who either don't know what they're talking about or who are trying to, use you, rob you, scam you. It happens every single day. I'm sure some of you have gotten those emails from people on Instagram or Facebook, and they're like, oh, come get a free reading, or can I give you a reading? And notice with those people, I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, I've been doing readings for a long time. 1999 is when I started on my spiritual journey. And a couple years after that, I started learning how to read. And I'm thinking to myself, I have never gone and just solicited random people who didn't even ask for this and say, hey, you want a reading? Nah, that's not how that works. So automatically, as soon as I get an inbox from somebody with a number telling me to call them, I'm like, for real. So just be really careful, guys, because there's a lot of that going on. And if you are trying to get into spirituality, it's a wonderful thing. Spirituality changed my whole life. I would not be sitting here if it wasn't for spirituality. If it wasn't for Goddess Offset and learning about spirituality, I would not be sitting here. So I believe very strongly in spirituality of different forms. But you have to talk to people who know what they're talking about, or they're going to lead you in the wrong direction, either on purpose or accidentally. Okay? Now we're going to look at some positive comments. The first one came from Graham Cracker JTV. Okay, I don't care about others doing their own thing as long as they don't try and push their ways on me without permission. Exactly. I agree 100%. Enough said. Yes. It's Miss versus World. It said Aquarius, Sun, and Moon, rising sign in Cancer. I love the nose ring and the tiara. Thank you. Aquarius, Sun, and Aquarius, Moon. Wow. The rising in Cancer. The first thing that came to me when I saw that, I thought about emotion, because as an Aquarius, we have so much emotion, even though we don't always show it. And then I thought about the Cancer energy. So I'm sitting here wondering, how do you deal with all that emotion? I think that would be so hard for me. Like, oh my goodness, I have a hard enough time with my own. I couldn't imagine dealing with that Cancer energy. My goodness. All right, guys, please come back soon because I have a lot more to say. See you later.